Tonight, state of emergency. Extreme weather hits the Northeast. Multiple tornado warnings are in place as severe thunderstorms and flash flooding move up the I-95 corridor, leading to this car rescue and ground stops at area airports. New York and New Jersey declaring states of emergency. Baltimore, Washington, Philadelphia, and New York City all on high alert. The family of one of Jeffrey Epstein's most prominent accusers is speaking out. President Trump tells reporters that Epstein stole the late Virginia Roberts Giuffre from Mar-a-Lago, and her siblings are shocked, asking just how much does the president know about the behavior of his one-time friend? The brothers of Virginia Giuffre join us. Panic at 37,000 feet. A Delta plane flying from Salt Lake City to Amsterdam hit by severe turbulence during meal service. Passengers flying out of their seats, 25 of them hospitalized. The pilot forced to drop 2,000 feet before diverting to Minneapolis. Justin Timberlake reveals a relentlessly debilitating battle with Lyme disease, describing a massive amount of nerve pain, fatigue, and sickness. Nearly 500,000 new cases of Lyme disease reported in the U.S. each year. How to know if you have it and how you can protect yourself. And UFOs, or as the government calls them, unidentified anomalous phenomena. President Trump took office vowing radical transparency across the board. Are we any closer to solving hundreds of cases that for years have captivated public interest and fueled conspiracy theories? In tonight's Prime Focus, we talk to the Pentagon's top UFO investigator and ask him what's really out there.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Linsey Davis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Linsey Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. We begin tonight with the states of emergency in the Northeast as severe thunderstorms and flash flooding slam New York City, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. and beyond. The rain in some places falling at a rate of up to 3 inches an hour, flooding streets and highways, rivers and creeks rising quickly, storm drains unable to keep up. Time-lapse video shows dark storm clouds moving in over Manhattan, heavy rain and severe flooding north of Baltimore. Rescuers freeing 2 people trapped in a car. Reports of a water spout there. Major highways are flooded across the New York City metro area. And tonight there are ground stops at airports across the region. More than 1,500 flights canceled so far. Meteorologist Lee Goldberg is standing by with the forecast, and more storms and heavy rain are coming tonight. ABC's Morgan Norwood with the images late today.
Tonight, major New York City expressways swamped, drivers stranded in high water as torrential rains wreak havoc across the Northeast. On the Clearview Expressway in Queens, rescue teams working to get drivers out of vehicles. A tractor trailer also stranded, bystanders stunned.
10 feet deep with cars in it and people sitting on top of cars. And I would guess that within an hour we got 3 inches.
And this was the aftermath. You can see that vehicle with all 4 doors open. The expressway shut in both directions for hours. Water cascading into New York City's Grand Central Terminal. New York and New Jersey hit hard from floods just weeks ago that inundated subways and neighborhoods, both declaring states of emergency ahead of the storms. The storms also hitting Northeast airports hard. More than 1,500 flights in and out of the U.S. canceled.
And Linsey, though the rain has been dying down, you can see the chaos that it left behind. The traffic steadily building here at the Lincoln Tunnel. But look, it is not over. More storms expected to roll through tonight, overnight. And some areas are looking at up to a half a foot of rain. Linsey?
All right. Very significant, Morgan. Thank you. Let's get right to Chief Meteorologist Lee Goldberg of our New York station, WABC, who is tracking it all for us. Hi, Lee.
Hi, Linsey. We're ringing out this tropical air mass, and torrential rain's the result. In fact, it was a dual threat, not only the heavy rain, but also some severe weather. We had tornado warnings over Maryland and New Jersey, and still some severe weather over parts of the mid-Atlantic this evening. But thankfully, these heavy downpours, they're going to start to shift offshore during the evening hours. There'll still be some moderate showers all the way from New England into the Hudson Valley of New York City, all the way down into the mid-Atlantic. But the worst will be pushing offshore, and the floodwaters will start to recede. But that elevated flood risk, it can still be realized, especially especially over the southern part of that red area in the Delmarva through the evening hours with the high rainfall rates of over 2, even 3 inches an hour. But some of those 5-inch totals have been realized in the mid-Atlantic and into the Northeast. While the relief is arriving because of this front, New York City barely gets to 70 during the day tomorrow. The relief will get down to areas like Memphis and Raleigh, not to the Gulf Coast, though. It stays hot there through the weekend. But the concern this evening is the I-95 corridor. Lindsay? What
a big change. All right, Lee Goldberg, our thanks to you. There are new details in the arrest of a suspect in the murder of a couple who was hiking with their 2 young daughters in Arkansas. The suspect is a 28-year-old teacher whose car was spotted leaving the scene. Also tonight, police are revealing more about what the mother did to protect her daughters. Here's our Chief Justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas.
Tonight, a stunning arrest in the murders of a couple hiking with their 2 children in northwest Arkansas. 28-year-old Andrew McGann, a school teacher who taught 5th grade and recently moved to the state to begin a new teaching position, now behind bars, charged with 2 counts of capital murder in an attack that police say appears to be completely random.
The suspect indicated that he did commit these murders.
McGann arrested overnight at this barbershop as he got a haircut about 30 miles from Devil's Den State Park, where Clinton and Christian Brink were murdered on Saturday. And tonight, those heartbreaking new details about how the couple fought to protect their 7- and 9-year-old daughters, as police say McGann started to stab them repeatedly with a knife. According to police, the girls' father was attacked first, his wife rushing the children to safety before returning to help her husband.
They absolutely protected those girls to their fullest extent, to the point that it cost them their lives. We're in awe of this mom and dad.
Police say the children later provided a description of the suspect and that the killer was injured at the scene, leaving behind blood and DNA that was a match to McGann.
DNA that was recovered at the initial crime scene matched his DNA.
There's no known connection between McGann and the Brinks, officials say, but they suspect the murders were premeditated because the killer had covered his license plate with duct tape to hide his identity. Lindsay, this investigation is far from over. Authorities still trying to determine motive and trying to understand why the suspect allegedly targeted a couple he did not know. His entire life now under scrutiny. Lindsay?
Pierre, thank you. Tonight, after President Trump made a claim that Jeffrey Epstein stole young women who worked at his Mar-a-Lago resort spa, the family of victim Virginia Giuffre is responding, now telling the president not to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell. We're standing by to hear from Virginia's brothers and their wives. But first, here's Rachel Scott.
24 hours after President Trump's remarkable new claim that Jeffrey Epstein stole young women who worked at his Mar-a-Lago resort, an anguished response from the family of one of those women, Virginia Giuffre. Giuffre claims she was approached at Mar-a-Lago in 2000 by Epstein's companion, Ghislaine Maxwell, who then sex trafficked her to Epstein.
I was recruited at a very young age from Mar-a-Lago and entrapped in a world that I didn't understand.
This week, Trump said Giuffre was one of several employees Epstein stole from him.
I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people. Yeah. He stole her. And by the way, she had no complaints about us, as you know, none whatsoever.
Giuffre's family calling it shocking to hear Trump say that he was aware that Virginia had been stolen from Mar-a-Lago. It makes us ask if he was aware of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's criminal actions. They also pointed to what Trump told New York Magazine in 2002, 2 years after Giuffre was allegedly trafficked to Epstein. Trump praising Epstein, telling the magazine, "It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side." Today, I asked the president.
You said that Jeffrey Epstein stole people from Mar-a-Lago. At the time, did you know why he was taking those young women, including Virginia, who was just 16 at the time?
I would figure it was ABC fake news that would ask that question, one of the worst. But no, I don't know really why. But I said, if he's taking anybody from Mar-a-Lago, he's hiring or whatever he's doing. I didn't like it, and we threw him out.
Giuffre died by suicide earlier this year, and Maxwell has always denied her accusations, calling her, quote, a fabulist. Maxwell is now serving 20 years behind bars for sex trafficking. Last week, she spent 9 hours meeting with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who was President Trump's personal lawyer. The president has not ruled out pardoning her.
Well, I'm allowed to give her a pardon, but nobody's approached me with it.
But tonight, the family of Virginia Giuffre calling Maxwell a monster and a predator who destroyed the lives of girls and young women without conscience, saying she deserves to rot in prison for the rest of her life.
Strong words condemning her there. Rachel Scott joins us now from the White House. Rachel, have we learned anything more in the last few days about what might have transpired during those DOJ interviews with Maxwell?
Yeah, and Lindsay, it has been a full week since Maxwell sat down with the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. We know that lawmakers over on Capitol Hill are calling for the transcripts, for the audio of those interviews to be released. So far, the administration has not said whether that will happen or release any more details about what was said, Lindsay.
Rachel Scott from the White House for us. Thanks so much, Rachel. Jeffrey Epstein is estimated to have abused a large number of girls. The Epstein Victims Compensation Fund paid out more than $120 million to 136 survivors. Another 52 women filed and privately settled claims. And we are grateful now to be joined by the family of one of Epstein's victims, Virginia Giuffre, her younger brother, Sky Roberts, and his wife, Amanda, and her older brother, Danny Wilson, and his wife, Lynette. Thank you all so much for joining us. I have to imagine this has been a trying period. First off, we'd like to extend our condolences on your sister's passing in April. Give us a sense of what went through your mind when you heard those words from President Trump about your sister.
I think it came as a very big shock to the family. We're still reeling from the very real loss of her, and kind of the way that it was thrown out and the words of being stolen as if she was an object. That's really painful to hear as a family who just is experiencing a really devastating time, and none of the victims are objects to be taken or stolen.
In your statement, you talk about Virginia's time at Mar-a-Lago and say it was shocking to hear President Trump invoke your sister and say that he was aware Virginia had been stolen from Mar-a-Lago, and that, quote, it makes us ask if he was aware of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's criminal actions. What would you like to see happen at this point?
I think first and foremost, the thing that our family is the most worried about is that Maxwell would be pardoned or released from prison. I know, talking to my sister, that wouldn't have flown if she was here today.
President Trump has said that no one has approached him asking for a pardon for Maxwell, but how does this talk about the possibility of a pardon? How do you react to that?
For me, I think, and you kind of reverted to being shocked about it. I think, it would be an injustice to not only my sister, but it would be an injustice to all the survivors out there if she were, and let's call it what it is, if the monster of Maxwell, who recruited my sister from Mar-a-Lago when she was just 15 to 16 years old. And I think it's important that, as Amanda stated, she's not an object, and neither are any of these survivors. And so I think we demand justice, and I think it would be an injustice if we saw Maxwell released from prison.
What would you all say if you were able to have a conversation directly with President Trump?
If I owned a business, I would definitely want to get to the bottom of it and not push forward, and I think that it was said that he was asked to leave that club. And then he had conversations after the fact with him. I wouldn't want to roll in the same circles, and I just feel like that would be my question.
AG Bondi promised there would be full transparency, and the only thing that would be kept from the public would be things that protect the identity of the victims. Now it's not clear exactly what will be released. Do you all as a family feel like those files need to be seen by the public?
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's what Virginia wanted. It's what she spoke about. It's what she worked for.
Agreed. And I think, something that needs to be brought up here as well is, it was promised alongside, essentially these were going to be released. And I think the public deserves transparency. I mean, what is what is America, right? What is this American dream that we all talk about? I mean, if we're not willing to stand behind these young women and children that have been abused, what does that say about us as a country? What does that say to our youth? What does that say to our next generation? My daughter is 11 years old. How do I look her in the eye and tell her? How do I tell her that we're not willing to stand behind women and children that have been abused? And so I think this is a call to action where what is America? What is justice?
I don't think it's a Democrat or a Republican problem. I think that it's just an American problem.
It's a human
It's a
issue.
human-
It's a human problem.
Global. It's a
Globally.
global issue. This is $1 billion industry. And we have to take a look at ourselves and decide what type of culture we want to create moving forward. And it's always been justice. It's always been justice and freedom for all. And I think it is very important for us as a family to carry that legacy and continue that, because that's what the public wants. That's what we all.
For those of us who never had the opportunity to meet your sister, tell us about Virginia, the person.
I'll just show you. I don't, it's a little difficult, but this is a photo of Virginia around 15, 16-year-old. And she was just such a light and a force to be reckoned with. And she was just so much joy. And I see so much of her and her brothers every single day. The three of them special, and the bond that they had. She lives in them every single day, and their joy and their cheekiness and their love for life and their care and empathy for others. That is Virginia.
I know it's all still so fresh, and Sky, Amanda, Danny, and Lynette, we thank you all so much for sharing a little bit of a insight into your sister and the issues currently on the table. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Maxwell has denied participating in sexual activities with Giuffre and Epstein and denied instructing Giuffre to have sex with others. Tonight, the harrowing account from a worker who came face-to-face with a gunman who opened fire in a high-rise office building in Midtown Manhattan on Monday. Our Erin Kotersky has her story.
Tonight, the Park Avenue office cleaner who stared down the barrel of the shooter's assault rifle and survived. She put her hands in the air. "I'm a cleaning lady. I'm a cleaning lady," Sabia Nelovich says she shouted as gunfire erupted around her. She was collecting garbage Monday evening on the 33rd floor of 345 Park Avenue, where she has worked for 27 years. She says she heard what sounded like firecrackers, rounded the corner to see the glass door in front of the reception desk shake and shatter. This guy came in the middle of the door and pointed his gun at me. He started shooting around me. Nelovich ran down the hall, hid in a closet, and started praying. She says she heard shouting, then footsteps. The gunman, Shane Tamura, was moving toward her, firing at the closet door. Then that worker says she thought of Julia Hyman, the young woman working late, still at her desk. I thought, God help her. Julia Hyman's funeral was yesterday. Wesley LePatner's was today.
My mom was like my rock, so I would talk to her, and I couldn't talk to anyone else. Nothing else would make it better.
And so was the funeral for Officer Didarul Islam, his pregnant wife, 2 sons, and other family members following behind his flag-draped casket in the Bronx, where he lived and served. Each day since the shooting, Linsey, that office cleaner says she's only been getting more stressed, more shaken. She was never scared at work. Now she says she does not want to go back. Linsey?
Erin, thank you. Hundreds of uniformed officers gathered outside a Bronx mosque today to honor Officer Didarul Islam, who was killed during Monday's shooting. Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch gave an emotional statement saying she was heartbroken and stands with Officer Islam's family. Islam, a father of 2 whose wife was expecting their 3rd child, was born in Bangladesh and moved to the city at 20 years old, becoming an officer in 2021. Commissioner Tisch posthumously promoted Islam to detective 1st grade, keeping with tradition. Overseas tonight, the dire humanitarian crisis in Gaza rages on. Palestinians risking their lives for food while mountains of aid just sit unable to be distributed. Our chief foreign correspondent Ian Pannell reports from Israel. Ian.
Lindsay, what we're seeing unfolding in Gaza is a massive humanitarian crisis, near famine conditions, according to professionals who advise the United Nations. The question is, why isn't more food getting into the mouths of the hungry? And today, we were given one of the reasons why.
Tonight, we go inside Gaza with the IDF to see the aid piling up as Palestinians starve and children go hungry.
This is the moment that we crossed from Israel into Gaza.
We were taken to a massive aid depot. Israel saying there's enough food here to feed all of Gaza for more than a week, but much of it going nowhere.
There are mountains and mountains of aid here waiting to be delivered to the desperate people inside Gaza. Literally just a few hundred yards down that road here, we have sacks of fortified flour to make bread that people desperately need.
Why isn't the aid being held there by Israel getting into the mouths of the hungry?
Once it's in the Gazan side, it's up to the international community to pick it up and distribute it, and we haven't seen that happen in a fast enough pace.
But the UN rejecting this, blaming Israel, saying they can't deliver the aid safely, and this is what they're up against. Hundreds of Palestinians desperate for food, met by gunfire.
It's kids, it's children.
Bullets hitting the ground just feet away. UN aid workers saying Israeli troops open fire.
Don't do this.
Undeterred, the crowd suddenly rushing the convoy, grabbing food before it can be safely distributed. Israel reviewing the incident, saying it only fires warning shots when faced with a threat.
We've seen that with increasing frequency in recent days. Ian joins us now from Tel Aviv. Ian, how is the U.S. trying to resolve this aid crisis?
Yeah, I mean, and it is a crisis without a doubt. The question is exactly what's going on and how do you resolve it? I think really what we saw today was this incredible amount of food and medicine and hygiene products. We saw row after row, thousands of boxes stuffed full. The Israelis are saying that there's enough there to feed the entire population of Gaza, more than 2 million people, for at least a week, even up to 2 weeks. Now, what the Israelis are saying is that the problem lies with the international aid organizations. They're getting it just inside the border into Gaza, but they're not picking it up. They're not filtering it out rapidly enough. But as the UN agencies have so clearly shown in that video in our report there, the difficulty with getting the aid out is people are desperate. A lot of the time the food convoys are surrounded by mobs. There isn't enough security. The logistics aren't there. They don't have security guarantees. In the meantime, you've got people in Gaza who are dying from lack of food when it exists, not that far away. We're expecting Steve Witkoff, the U.S. Special Envoy, who's been sent to the region by President Trump, to go into Gaza and see the situation for himself at one of the aid distribution sites. Apparently, he's going to meet Gazans. We're also told by the White House he's going to come up with a plan to how to distribute more food. But the challenge isn't just how to get it in, it's how to get it into the mouths of the hungry. Lindsay.
Ian Pannell for us. Our thanks to you as always. Stolen gear from the Miami Heat has been linked to what is being called the largest sports memorabilia heist in history. According to a former team executive, NBA Finals collectibles from the team were stolen and allegedly sold over a span of 18 months for millions of dollars. Some of the items reportedly taken were tied to the biggest games in the franchise, including LeBron James and Dwayne Wade. The team issued a brief statement saying they cannot comment on ongoing investigations. Coming up, the latest from Sean Diddy Combs' legal team in the hopes of getting him out of prison. But first, one of the world's biggest pop stars reveals he's battling Lyme disease. We'll tell you how it's contracted, the signs and symptoms you need to be on the lookout for, and how to protect yourself and your family during these summer months. Superstar Justin Timberlake has revealed that he is battling Lyme disease. Timberlake shared this online, saying that he's been dealing with health issues, complaining of massive nerve pain, and calling the illness relentlessly debilitating. Timberlake shared his condition following criticism of what some fans called a lackluster performance during the final leg of his Forget Tomorrow World Tour, which ended yesterday. Lyme disease is a bacterial infection that spreads to people through the bites of ticks carrying Borrelia bacteria. Tonight, we take a look at just how common it is and how often it's sending people to the emergency room. by the numbers. Infection is most common in the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and upper Midwest regions of the U.S. But most cases of Lyme disease can be treated successfully with 10 to 14 days of antibiotics. People treated early on usually recover rapidly and completely. If left untreated, a wide range of symptoms may develop depending on the stage of infection, including fever, rash, facial paralysis, and irregular heartbeat and arthritis. There are 3 stages of the disease. The first starting off usually with a rash. About 476,000 people in the United States are diagnosed and or treated for Lyme disease each year, according to the CDC. This past May, the rate of people visiting the emergency room for a tick bite was at the highest level since 2019, according to CDC data. May is typically when ER visits for tick bites peak each year. The most important question is, how do we keep ourselves safe? For that, we bring in ABC News medical correspondent Dr. Darian Sutton. Dr. Sutton, thanks for being here. So how do we protect ourselves from these tick bites that could lead to Lyme disease?
Well, a lot of this work is done in prevention, making sure, number one, are you in a high-risk area? As you just stated, Northeast, Upper Midwest, Mid-Atlantic, those are areas where they have high levels of deer ticks that can transfer this type of infection. So before you go outside into a wooded area, you want to practice prevention. That can include repellent on your skin, such as DEET. A natural option can be oil of lemon eucalyptus. You can also double up by placing permethrin on your clothing. And then when you get back inside from being outside, studies show that taking a shower within 2 hours of arriving home can reduce your risk. Taking your clothing and placing it in the dryer at high heat also reduces your risk. And Lindsay, I think it's so important for kids to help them inspect their bodies, hairline, behind the ears, their belly button, between their toes, because these ticks can be as small as a poppy seed. So you want to make sure that you check.
And what are some of the symptoms that we should be looking for?
Well, that's the tricky part, because Lyme disease can mimic many types of infections, which is one of the reasons why many don't get the proper diagnosis. Common symptoms can include fatigue, body aches, muscle aches, joint pain, and sometimes it can progress into chronic symptoms. And then, of course, there's the classical rash that you want to look for. We're trained to look for the bullseye rash. That's technically textbook, but honestly, it can come with non-specific rashes. Most importantly, it can develop between 3 and 30 days after that tick bite, so you want to make sure you pay attention.
So in general, what should you do if you feel you should be diagnosed?
Yeah, well, number one, if the tick has been on you for longer than 36 hours, then that is when your risk increases. So if you find a tick a day or two after you've been hiking, then that is a reason to have a conversation. But more importantly, if you're having symptoms after exposure, you've been in a wooded area, you're not sure if you've been bitten by a tick, that's when you want to start talking about the possibility of testing.
And what's treatment include?
Well, treatment often includes antibiotics, and if it's caught early, it's highly treatable. But Lindsay, 10 to 20% of people who get treatment will go on to progress with chronic symptoms. That can be difficult to treat. That's often supportive, where you're helping people with their symptoms rather than trying to get to the diagnosis or treat the actual infection, because unfortunately there is no cure.
Are there long-term issues after you do get it treated?
Yeah, well, in some cases, I'll say that they are rare and less common. There are long-term cases, and that is where the research is being done, trying to understand how to help those who are dealing with the chronic fatigue, the chronic muscle aches, and in some cases, heart or cardiac problems associated with this infection. Again, these are less common. This is why we focus on prevention, by making sure that we can prevent the actual tick bite. That's a lot easier than treating it.
Sure sounds that way. All right. Always appreciate your expertise. Thanks so much, Dr. Sutton. Coming up, it's the fitness test your classmates warned you about. President Trump is bringing it back to schools across the country. And in our Prime Focus, we go inside the Pentagon's efforts to explain alleged sightings of UFOs, what we know and what we don't.
Is it possible there's a secret program here that you just don't know about?
Welcome back, everyone. You've probably seen some of the mysterious videos, unidentified objects appearing to zoom through the sky, defying physics. We're talking about UFOs, or as the government calls them, unidentified anomalous phenomena. President Trump took office vowing radical transparency across the board, and that has UFO investigators hoping the government will be more forthcoming about any secret information related to potential non-human intelligence and advanced threats. So what do we know right now? And are we any closer to solving hundreds of cases that have captivated public interest and fueled conspiracy theories? In tonight's Prime Focus, our Devin Dwyer took those questions to the Pentagon's top UFO investigator.
How will you know when you're looking at something that could be extraterrestrial life or non-human intelligence?
I think it's going to require a lot more than the blurry videos that I have right now.
The videos have fueled our fascination.
Wow, look at him fly!
What many know as UFOs, the government calls unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UAPs.
Oh my gosh, dude. Wow, look at him.
More than 1,800 reviewed by the Pentagon since 2022. Objects like this one, a sign of life beyond Earth? Or could it be a cutting-edge technology developed by an adversary?
It's a potential problem, a national security problem, a safety of flight issue.
Potential non-human intelligence.
Perhaps.
John Kozlowski is the top U.S. official tasked with investigating UAPs.
You've been solving problems for years in your career. Are these some of the toughest problems you've had to tackle as a scientist?
They are.
Kozlowski leads the Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, created by Congress 3 years ago to detect, identify, and attribute mysterious objects of interest in the air, in outer space, and even underwater. Now the office answers to President Trump.
How much of a priority is this work for President Trump and Secretary Hegseth?
No new directives, but lots of support. We seem to have the full support of the administration.
Would you ever open up Roswell and let us know what's really going on there?
So many people ask me that question.
The commander-in-chief has been a UFO skeptic.
It's never been my thing, I have to be honest. I have never been a believer.
But Trump has also hinted that the government may know more than it's letting on.
I won't talk to you about what I know about it, but it's very interesting. But Roswell's a very interesting place with a lot of people that would like to know what's going on.
The president is now vowing unprecedented transparency in his second term, giving UFO enthusiasts across the political spectrum hope for fresh answers about those mysteries. Kozlowski has accelerated the release of intensive investigations, a team of several dozen experts poring over video clips, radar data, eyewitness accounts, and deploying mathematical analyses to determine the most likely explanation for each UAP.
Obviously, that is an interesting anomaly.
One of the most recent resolutions, this object spotted by a U.S. military drone, seeming to fly through the hot exploding ash of Mount Etna as it erupted in 2018. No known technology is capable of flying in those conditions.
And what is it, do we think?
It looks like it's probably a 1 foot wide balloon. Yeah, floating with the wind. Yep.
Like a birthday balloon.
Yeah, could be.
This object, racing across Puerto Rico in 2013, mesmerized investigators for years. Watch as it appears to split into two, then dip into the water before disappearing out of sight.
With very careful analysis of the metadata, taking into account where the camera was pointing, we were able to assess that this is actually an object that is flying just a few hundred feet above the ground and is maintaining a flight path consistent with the wind over the airport the whole time.
So it doesn't actually dip into the water, it's a mirage.
Exactly, yep. It's just an artifact of the sensor.
Most of the cases are readily explainable, Kozlowski says. Large birds, balloons, debris, or drones.
Is your goal to resolve every case that comes in?
So our hope is to be able to triage them, identify those that have the best scientific data, the nexus with national security interests, and the true anomalies behind them, and focus our attention on those really anomalous cases.
How many ballpark are in that category right now?
It's several dozen, but it's a couple % of the overall.
One unexplained anomaly is the so-called Tic Tac incident of 2004.
Really no idea what that might be.
Navy F-18 pilot David Fravor spotted the object off the California coast, seeming to move at impossible speeds. He spoke with ABC News in 2017.
We're in a clockwise flow, going from 12 to 3, and it starts going from 6 to 9. And it's coming up, and we're going down. We start to cut across. It rapidly accelerates, climbs past our altitude, and disappears. That's the last we saw of it.
Any progress?
Not much. There's not a lot of scientific data available.
Is there a procedure for making it public if you think you've actually found it? Non-human intelligence?
So there's no precedence for that, obviously, but I think that we would take that up through the Secretary of Defense and allow him to make that decision.
Critics of the Pentagon effort say it has been hobbled by staffing shortfalls, bogged down by bureaucratic confusion, and mired in excessive secrecy. Whistleblowers testifying before Congress have claimed the government is still hiding evidence of non-human intelligence.
I was informed in the course of my official duties of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program.
Lawmakers from both parties have proposed legislation to force federal agencies to disclose more information, but Congress has yet to pass it.
When you have only certain information that's shared with the American people, that's when conspiracy theories happen. And it's in my opinion that conspiracy theories can be detrimental.
The issue is when we mix secrecy with a stigma, and that we create such a stigma around a phenomenon that it becomes difficult, if not impossible, for agencies, for academics, for people to look at the issue seriously.
Mike Gold is a former associate NASA administrator who served on the agency's UAP independent study team. He's now part of a group of scientific and national security experts pushing for greater transparency.
I have high hopes for this administration, not only because of what the president said, but Tulsi Gabbard, our DNI, explicitly mentioned UAP in her congressional hearing. That helps push back against the stigma.
Should the president, with the stroke of his pen, do what he did with the JFK files and declassify anything related to UAP?
I would applaud an executive order to declassify information relative to UAP.
Gold says he's been urging Congress to support more aggressive analysis of troves of existing government data.
If we study UAP, not only can we help with national security, and even if we don't discover something exotic, what's the worst case scenario? We discover an incredible new physical phenomena.
Last year, the Pentagon completed a historic review of 80 years of records related to unidentified anomalous phenomena and concluded there is no evidence that any U.S. government investigation, academic-sponsored research, or official review panel has confirmed that any sighting of a UAP represented extraterrestrial technology.
You confident in that?
Yeah, that stands true.
Can you say categorically that there is no intact spacecraft or part of a spacecraft that the U.S. government is holding?
I have not been able to corroborate any of those claims.
Is it possible there's a secret program here that you just don't know about?
Anything's possible.
Keeping an open mind and an open door as the Pentagon team investigating unidentified anomalous phenomena faces growing calls for answers.
So many curious to find out those answers. Our thanks to Devin Dwyer. Coming up, the rescue after a massive bee swarm and a life or death car ride with your daughter. That's the gripping plot of a new movie in theaters tomorrow. The stars of She Rides Shotgun are here next. Who came to the rescue when a grandmother is attacked by a swarm of bees? The test President Trump is bringing back to public schools, and the big changes for two brothers in the MLB. These stories and more in tonight's rundown. Two plumbers are being credited with saving a grandmother's life after she was attacked by a swarm of bees at her home in Santee, California. The plumbers had just finished their job on Thursday morning when they noticed two people frantically trying to wave down help. An elderly woman was leaning against a car, completely mobbed by bees. They tried to get the bees off of her with a fire extinguisher, but that didn't work. Finally, a fire department helicopter arrived and used its rotors to blow the bees away. A family member of the grandmother said that she was stung hundreds of times and had a severe reaction, but is recovering well. Kids in America's public schools will soon be lacing up their sneakers for the presidential fitness test, as President Donald Trump is set to announce its return more than a decade after it was discontinued. The fitness test began under former President Dwight Eisenhower in 1956, but in 2012, former President Obama replaced it with the Presidential Youth Fitness Program, a comprehensive school-based program that promoted living an active and healthy lifestyle. The test typically included a mix of running, push-ups, and other exercises, but it's not yet clear what will be included in the Trump administration's version. Attorneys for Sean Diddy Combs filed a motion asking that Combs' conviction earlier this month be thrown out or that he be given a new trial. The 62-page motion argues that the law under which Combs was convicted July 2nd on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution was too broadly interpreted to apply to Combs. The hip-hop mogul was convicted on 2 counts of transportation for prostitution, but acquitted on 2 counts of sex trafficking and 1 count of racketeering conspiracy. Just a day after announcing that she would not be running for governor of California, former Vice President Kamala Harris announced that she is publishing a new book titled 107 Days, a reference to the length of her whirlwind presidential campaign after Biden stepped off the ticket. Harris says it's a collection of reflections and conversations with her team, friends, and family, offering a behind-the-scenes account of it all. Harris has not ruled out running for office again in the future. Workers conducting a routine survey of a site that used to make components for nuclear weapons made an unexpected discovery: a wasp nest that had 10 times the amount of radiation allowed by federal regulations. It was found near tanks that stored liquid nuclear waste. The workers sprayed the nest with insecticide and removed it, but found no wasps inside. They say the public is not in danger. The New York Mets acquired right-handed reliever Tyler Rogers from the San Francisco Giants in exchange for 3 players, while Rogers' identical twin brother Taylor Rogers was traded from the Cincinnati Reds to the Pittsburgh Pirates earlier Wednesday. Both of the Rogers twins are relief pitchers, and it's believed to be the first time in MLB history that twin brothers were traded mid-season on the same day. But Taylor's time with the Pirates did not last long. He's now been traded again to the Chicago Cubs. An ex-con father tries to protect his estranged 10-year-old daughter from his past. It's a new thriller called She Rides Shotgun, produced by and starring Taron Egerton. Our Ika Jachi sat down with the actor and his young co-star Anna Sophia Egger about the movie's release and their bond.
From now on, we're on our own. Dangerous men are coming for us. You're gonna have to do as I say. I want you to be brave and strong. Can you do that for me?
Taron and Anna, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, this movie is phenomenal. It's such a gripping movie, but I gotta ask you, if you could both swap roles for one day, so Taron as Polly, Anna as Nate, right?
Wow.
What would be the hardest or most challenging or most fun part about that experiment?
Well, I know what the hardest thing would be. Anna's performance is so good in the film that I would just look terrible by comparison.
Hey.
I've never been so badly upstaged by somebody.
I think I would need a stunt double the whole time because I could not fight like him.
I gotta tell you, I'll never want to see you pull a trigger again.
And I don't think I'm as scary as him.
You think I'm scary?
In the movie.
In the movie.
In the
thanks.
movie.
That's fine.
She Rides Shotgun. It's filled with such gritty, intense action, but there are also so many tender moments in that.
Yeah. It's a very high-stakes situation where a father is on the run with his daughter and the world's out to get them. And we tried to be as committed to the action moments, which are always very intense and very high stakes because there's a very young person's life at stake in the movie. And then the moments of tenderness, we really took a pause, didn't we, and calmed down and tried to do our best job.
Yeah, and just really tried to bond and connect together.
I'm sure when you guys read the script, was there a scene or something that you both were looking forward to shooting? And when it came to actually shooting it, how did it actually play out?
Probably the hair cutting scene.
Have you done this before?
Yeah, thousands of times.
I loved that scene, and I was so excited to film that one. We were always improvising, and it felt so natural and fun, and that was one of the tender moments I felt like.
Yeah, we really had a chance to play that day, didn't we? And find some moments that weren't in the script, and it turned out really well.
Yeah.
I mean, any moment in the movie where the action kind of pauses, my character Nate and Anna's character Polly have a second to really spend time together and learn about one another. Those are my favorite moments in the film. And without fail, I was blown away by this incredible young artist. And I very deliberately used the word artist rather than actor because She is, without doubt, one of the best I've worked with. She's extraordinary. You hold your own with all the great young performances I've ever seen.
Thank you.
Anna, another thing I want to talk about is Polly. She goes through quite the transformation in the movie. So how did you prepare for such a powerful role?
Well, I always prepare with my dad. We read through the script a bunch of times to really know what the movie's about, what the character's about. I try to really put myself into the character and really feel what she's feeling. All the emotional scenes, they just really naturally come to me. I just try to feel like this is really happening in real life.
Nate plays a father who is essentially forced into a life or death car ride with his daughter.
Yeah.
So how did playing a dad in such extreme circumstances really change the way that you approach the role?
It's Anna's character's story, really, and I'm playing a very big supporting role. And it felt like a role where I didn't have to be quite so fixated on what I was doing. And it was all about this relationship. That was the thing that was most important, both for the movie and I think for us on set. And I really enjoyed that experience. I found it very rewarding and very, as I say, very freeing.
Now, Anna, this is actually your return to acting. So what attracted you to this role, and how did this role differ from your previous roles?
When I first read it, I loved the challenge and her relationship with her dad and the way she grows throughout the movie. You know, she gets put into all these crazy circumstances and she's kind of forced to be confident and strong. It's not like the other roles I've played.
Now, Taryn, you're actually a producer for this movie as well. So how did that change your relationship between the characters and even just working with everybody on set?
It just means that I can make everyone do what I want whenever I want.
That's nice.
Which I really like. So in between scenes, you know, say, for example, maybe I needed a latte. I'd make sure that Anna would go and get me that latte. And
Did I ever get you a latte?
No, I'm joking. I'm trying to be funny.
That's what I'm for. You let me do that if it comes to it, okay?
I am a producer on the film, and more than anything I've ever been a part of, I feel that I've had a hand in willing this film into existence. It's not easy to get a film like this made. I couldn't be more proud of it. I'm as proud of it as I am anything I've ever been a part of. And when you pull away all of the car chase and the guns and the action and the craziness, it's really a film about love, and I love it for that reason.
Yeah, me too.
Taryn and Anna, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our thanks to Ike for the conversation. You can catch She Rides Shotgun in theaters tomorrow. And that is our show for this hour. I'm Linsey Davis. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks so much for streaming with us.